Okay, I just made this video and got to the end and realized I'd never put my microphone on, and I did that video in one take, and it's easily the most difficult video I've ever had to make. So I happened to do this a second time. It's not so much fun. But that's what happens when you haven't made a video for a long time. You forget simple things like your audio. And I have been out of place for a bit, and I do apologize for that. Let me say that right up front. 2020, for all of us, has been a kick in the gonads, a repeated kick in the gonads. Like I said, what's to follow is a really hard video for me to make. I'm gonna open up and expose my life to you, and then pray that you'd rather walk with me in the future and help me and support me rather than to hit me while I'm down. Now, things got nutty for everybody, and as a family nurse practitioner in a walk-in clinic, I had been exposed daily excuse me, to patients who tested positive for COVID. And no, I didn't come down with COVID. I was tested for it. As a 63-year-old diabetic hypertensive, though, this weighed heavily on me every single day. I know that the stakes are higher for me as that diabetic hypertensive than they are, for example, for my 19-year-old son. And every patient I saw was a potential exposure for myself. I'd been very, very careful with my personal protective equipment, because I'm not fooling myself. I know how easy it is to get it, and I know how sick I could become. So every single day was kind of a battle that way. Also, I had started a channel on politics, and I was really very excited about it. I have very strong political feelings, and I'm able to express them pretty well. But even politics got so crazy, I just threw my hands up and I walked away from that channel. It wasn't a big loss. There's only 10 or 11 subscribers. Wasn't taken off very fast. So I sat back and I just watched, and I started to enjoy not spending the time and the energy it takes to put together the videos. And I found myself having less and less energy. I was chronically fatigued. I found myself short of breath and dizzy just getting out of my truck and walking into my office. I felt so bad that my daily existence was to simply survive until I could get off work, go home, and crash. And this all came to a head on September the 22nd, just a couple weeks ago. It was a Tuesday, and on that Tuesday, I could barely make it into the clinic in an attempt to get my fellow practitioner to go ahead and work me up a bit. My legs had started swelling, especially my right leg. I had what's called pitting edema. I was very faint and I was very short of breath. My primary fear was that I either had a blood clot in my leg, known as a DVT, or one of my lungs, and those are called pulmonary emboli. I'd like to say I had no idea what was about to smack me in the face, but denial plays a big part in this. My chest x-ray looked fine. We sent it off to the main hospital to be read. My EKG looked fine. We sent that off to my cardiologist, and he gave the thumbs up. But my lab work was all over the place. Of primary concern, and a result that explained my lack of energy and my shortness of breath, was that my hemoglobin was 7.7 and dropping. My usual hemoglobin is over 14, sometimes 15. Your hemoglobin carries your oxygen, and I had less than half as much as I normally did. So it wasn't hard to really deplete my oxygen supply, just getting out of my truck and walking to my office, for instance. So I had a lot less hemoglobin than I normally did, and it was dangerously less. So I was direct admitted to the hospital for blood transfusions, and I had to start facing the truth that I had been suppressing. I was having a lot of problems with my bowels, and I tried to attribute that to a new medication I was taking for my diabetes that has primarily gastrointestinal side effects, and they can be pretty severe. And there's a lot more to that story, but I'll get to it later. So my first night at the hospital was spent getting blood transfusions, and these transfusions made me feel marginally better, but I got absolutely no sleep. My mind was working overtime, and there's no way it was going to shut down. Plus, when you're getting transfusions, the staff is in and out constantly. I had a sleeping pill ordered, but I sure as heck wasn't going to take it because, being a control freak, I wanted to know exactly what was going on at all times. Turns out I should have caught some shut-eye when I could. I didn't get any sleep during the day on Wednesday, and they were doing MRIs and they were doing CAT scans. And I was starting to get really hungry because they had me on clear liquids, which basically means not eating anything. Wednesday night was spent drinking a GI prep from hell that's designed to completely clean your bowels out so that the GI doc can see whatever he wants to see during the colonoscopy that was scheduled for Thursday morning. The prep is called Go Lightly. I don't know why, because it really should be called Go Heavily. This resulted in me not sleeping again because it was a constant up and down to the bathroom, and there's no way I was going to take a sleeping pill and not be able to get up and make it to the bathroom in time. Also, my blood pressure decided to start playing tricks on me. My diastolic pressure, which is the number on the bottom, was dropping into the 30s and the 40s, and that's not good. You need to have a little bit higher to sustain your body functions. So I decided to decline all of my diabetic and blood pressure medications because I knew I could, and I knew I didn't need them. I wasn't eating. I certainly didn't need diabetic medication. And there's no way I was going to take something for my blood pressure when it was already so low. And the nursing staff was kind enough to take my word as a nurse practitioner that I didn't need them, or either that or they called my admitting doctor and he told them to just humor me. So Thursday morning came early. I've been up 48 hours and I'm just punch drunk by that time. And they came and wheeled me to the GI lab, and they're very nice people there and several familiar faces, people I've known over the years because I've worked with that particular hospital system since 1997. However, in this case, seeing familiar faces isn't so cool. Think of it this way. You're about to be knocked out and have a tube shoved in your butt, and you really don't want friends involved in that. Or maybe you do. I don't know. I didn't want it. So at any rate, it was moot because none of them were assigned to my procedure. It was really nice to see their friendly faces. The procedure itself, let's talk about that. I had done everything within my power I could to avoid having a colonoscopy. I should have started having them at age 50. It turns out, and I really just found this out, that my mother had a malignant polyp on one of her colonoscopies. And bless her heart, my primary care faithfully asked me each and every time I saw her if I was ready to have that colonoscopy. Bob, are you ready for your colonoscopy? And I always said, let's talk about it next time. Well, if I'd listened to her maybe 3 years earlier, things might have been a whole lot different for me. At any rate, they wheel you into one of the procedure rooms and everybody introduces themselves and says what their role in the procedure is going to be. And there were 2 student nurses, and they asked me if it was okay for them to stay and watch. And my first instinct was to say no. However, I know how important these experiences are to student nurses, having been there myself. And I had a gut feeling that this is going to be a very interesting case for them to see when it at the end of the day, when they have the little post-conference, they'd have a lot to chat about. They put you to sleep with propofol, and if that rings a bell, think Michael Jackson. The difference here is I actually had a qualified person administering it to me. So the CRNA, the anesthetist, started the drip, and I watched the white milky fluid start to go into my vein, and just for fun, I thought I'd try to fight it off as long as I could. And right after it entered my bloodstream, I got a very heavy and dizzy head, and that was it. I woke up in recovery with my wife and a nurse at the bedside, and it was like a light switch. And the procedure, lights out, all woke up, lights on, and there I was in the recovery room. My wife, being my wife, had taken a picture of my unconscious body and sent it out for everybody's general amusement. They must have let my GI specialist know as soon as I woke up, because he appeared within a couple minutes with a printout of some of the pictures he had taken, and I have them right over there on my desk, but I don't think you want to see them. And he didn't mince any words. He said, "You have rectal cancer." Simple as that. You have rectal cancer. And really, what can you say? You say what you found out. You don't beat around the bush. Then I experienced a few moments of initial shock, and then I quickly accepted the diagnosis I was pretty much thinking I was going to be given when I was sitting on the toilet and dumping massive amounts of blood. My wife was equally rocked, and she recovered equally quickly. Her mindset went from, what is wrong with my husband, to now we know what it is, let's formulate a battle plan. I'm just going to say here, I can only pray you get as lucky with your life partner as I have with mine. She is a true Southern woman, and she loves her man, and she is digging in and supporting me 100%, while still letting me know she will kick my ass if I don't do my part in this. So what is this? This is my treatment. My oncologist would like to try a 28-day trial of chemoradiation, 28 days, Monday through Friday, of radiation treatments to the cancer sites and taking an oral medication called Xeloda. This sounds to me a lot better than getting chemo through a central line, a lot less side effects. I might even get to keep my hair. And if we can get away with just a 28-day cycle of chemoradiation, that would be magnificent, because it can be 12 weeks plus. This particular kind of cancer that I have is supposed to react pretty well to this regimen. The main side effects are nausea, mouth sores, redness, and peeling of the skin on your hands and feet. Not very pleasant, but nothing says I have to have those side effects, only that I could have them. At the end of the chemoradiation cycle, I'll be reevaluated, and if the treatment has shrunk up my tumors enough, then they can have the surgeon do a resection of my bowel, cut out the bad stuff. The main question at that point, and I'm sorry if this embarrasses anybody, but the main question at that point is whether or not there is enough good tissue at the anal verge to save my anus, or if I have to have a colostomy. I know that sounds terrible, I apologize. Sounds horrible until it's you that's got the cancer, and then you start to understand that this may be what saves your life, and all of a sudden it doesn't sound as bad as it did. So what's next from here? Well, the fight of my life, the fight for my life. When I saw my oncologist, she didn't have the results of the PET scan. I just finished it. And a PET scan looks at your lymph nodes, and it sees if any of them are involved, and if they are involved, how far away from the primary site are they involved? In other words, do you have a metastatic disease? If any of them are involved, then you have at least a stage 3 cancer, which has a 40% survival rate at 5 years, which is what my oncologist thinks I have as stage 3. If there are distal nodes involved, then that survival rate drops to 10%. So what am I hoping? I'm really hoping that I can return to work as soon as possible. This sitting at home, I don't like it. But however, returning to work as a nurse practitioner may or may not be possible anytime soon. That's what I have my sights set on. Also, I want to have as mild of a course of chemoradiation as possible, and to do things like make videos for this channel, and to get out and do some real estate photography and video with my drones. I've been working with a company that contracts out my company, Lone Star Digital Magic, and they have been keeping me pretty busy with projects, so I want to be able to do that. I actually have some videos to put together that I think you might like. There's a trip to the beach that we just got back. There's a new drone, which you droners are going to love, and at least one death nut challenge. So That's it. That's catching you up. If you've gone this far, thanks for hanging in. If you're not subbed, please do sub, and I'll try not to stay away so long. If you're a praying person, I'd appreciate your prayers. Take care.